Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγατός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
For me, this proves that even the gospel writers writing back then did not themselves believe that it said they pierced my hands and my feet. That's what it demonstrates to me, and I think any objective person.
Okay, several problems here. All the gospel writers, at least the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, cite some portion of Psalm 22. They do not all cite the first verse. So that's the first thing. If they're all citing the text, why aren't they? And it's so important to cite every part of it if it actually is about Jesus. Why aren't they all citing?
Mark and Matthew do.
They don't all cite, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
But Mark and Matthew
right?
do. So two out of the three.
Two out of the three. But Luke also quotes various parts of Psalm 22, so he clearly thinks it's about Jesus.
So what is? Okay,
Secondly, I let you finish. I let you finish.
I don't know the answer. I need you to answer this question.
Yeah. I'm answering it.
What does Luke say about Psalm 22?
He quotes various parts, such as when they're wagging their heads and they're mocking him, but here's
his
the
clothes
point.
and his the interlocks.
Dividing clothes.
Okay.
These different elements are mentioned by the gospel. Some of them are common to them all. One might mention one that is not mentioned by others, or vice versa.
Literary mimesis. So this is rotating to make a good point of Jesus.
So here's the thing. Well, that's the claim. But so that's the first problem with your claim. They don't have to cite everything in the psalm in order to believe the psalm is about Jesus. Secondly, they do talk about him being nailed, which entails piercing. John talks about the nails that were put in Christ's hands. But thirdly,
he's showing Thomas, isn't he? He's like,
thirdly, here's the thing.
I don't know where that story is in the other gospels.
Thirdly, why does every story have to record the same element?
I find it strange that as time goes on, you're adding more and more and more.
If I look at Surah 19, Surah 20, Surah 27 and 28 of the story of Moses, I find variation in the story. I don't criticize the Quran because one surah includes additional information not found in the other, or even sometimes reports some of it in a different order. So
I just think it's so glaringly obvious.
And I would say, okay, then it's glaringly obvious that in Surah 19, 20, 27, and 28, we've got variation.
I'm saying.
But let me finish my point.
Because you made a claim. I'm saying the movement.
You made
Mark
three.
I'm saying the movement from Mark to John. It clearly shows higher Christology.
Oh, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. But
can I ask a question? I'm first time here.
Are you Christian?
I am.
Okay.
And my question just is, why do you cover your face?
Even the police came and spoke to us, actually.
No, I
Have they spoken to you yet?
I wanted to say, why is your face covered?
A lot of cameras.
Be honest.
Yeah, I'll answer you. I don't like having. There's a lot of cameras
No,
here.
it's a normal
I'm
to
not.
have just
No
short
problem.
face.
For you, maybe. For you,
Why
maybe.
do you have it?
No problem. No, thank you for your opinion.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Why?
Because they're violent people, man.
They don't have the same glowing visage, the same glowing visage
That's not good.
as me.
Anyway,
Violent by nature.
Anthony, are we violent? Do you think?
No.
Anthony just said we're not violent, so it's okay.
And Anthony's not afraid of violence.
No.
So
He's from Balboa Park.
No, I grew up though in Southern California, like
There you
Luthman.
go. Yeah,
Luthman
yeah.
was a gang member.
South Central.
We had to say
That's right. You and
he was
Osman spoke about it.
he was
didn't you?
further down. But still, it's still a
South Central. Is that what it's?
South Central is like where LA is more up more in LA or in California.
Okay.
He's down in San Diego.
Right.
Which has its own, rough comparable street situation.
Yeah, and they thought he was Mexican as well. So.
Oh yeah. When I saw him, I could have thought that myself. But it's easy to see that he's not too when he tells you. Once he tells you. But so, anyways.
Here we go.
I would be if I had to be. If I must be. If I must
Why are they concerned that you have a mask on?
I don't know.
Oh, I was only curious, just out of curiosity.
Well,
wondering
obviously
which,
the police didn't come and speak
You've
to
been
us,
pacified by your
which I understand because
You've been
they
pacified.
need to understand that there's not like
Look how they
a
pacified
threat,
you.
and,
You have your hat.
which I get and I'm happy to.
You know
Yeah.
what they did
Some
to you?
people they're like,
You know
oh
what
yeah,
they
it's
did to
because
you?
you're violent and
They conquered
they
your
keep
country.
badgering you like this. But
Yeah.
it's okay.
So I don't mind.
You're
I'm having a
good.
conversation, Anthony, and I think it's been quite an amicable conversation.
Oh yeah.
You're a good
I forgot where we're at. Oh yeah. So
These two, as you can probably tell, they don't get on these two.
so here. Well, I wish I could. I don't know how long you have. Obviously, each thing we say.
I don't know when I'm going to see
Each
you
thing we
again.
say brings up another thing, and I think,
of course,
I'd love
yeah.
to talk about
It's
that.
a
I'd
good
love to talk about
conversation.
that.
It's a good
Yeah,
conversation.
why don't
But-
you just stick to a topic, man?
No,
You
no,
guys
no.
need a round table. You need
Well,
a round table
I-
around, like a chicken.
Have you not got TikTok?
I do, but I'm not like I have 500 subscribers, so I can't do
You
the.
can't go live.
I can't go live.
We can get
You don't have
those.
YouTube?
I have YouTube. Yes,
YouTube.
yes.
Yeah, just
Bane on YouTube.
No, not just that. Just put your TikTok name in the YouTube, and all your followers will just go over there.
Yeah, I should. I mean, I put it on there, but people don't look. Hey.
Sorry.
So-
So you talked about the New Testament, and they didn't say.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying. Some gospel writers quote the first verse, some don't. Some quote other verses, others don't. So, for example, in Matthew 27, Matthew quotes verse 8 of Psalm 22. The other gospel writers don't, but they quote verse 7 or they quote verse 9. So that, from our standpoint, isn't a defeater for the idea that Psalm 22 is about Jesus. Now, verse 16 not being quoted. Now, I didn't even tell you that my view is that the best rendering is pierced. I don't think it's like a lion. That's my point.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah. Because it's a gibberish reading in Hebrew when you look at it. It's
In
not
your
even
opinion.
the standard spelling. But and I'm happy to show the commentators. Even when we get
what
off,
do the Jewish
when we
commentators
get
say?
off this, I'll just pull up. I can pull up Jewish
the Jewish commentators
Yeah,
say?
we can
Like
do that.
what Jewish commentator takes issue with the fact that it says like a lion? That man's
Yeah, so we'll talk. I'll show you that. But here's my point.
Go on.
I'm not even arguing that it necessarily is pierced as opposed to like a lion. Here's the interesting thing. So the Septuagint says pierced, but that's not the only translation of the Old Testament from the Hebrew to the Greek. There are other Greek translations before Jesus, or not done by
later,
Christians.
Anthony, it's later.
No, it's before.
Before what?
Before Jesus.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, the 5 books of Moses.
No.
the Septuagint are before Jesus.
Oh yeah.
The others are written by Origen.
Yeah, but no. You're right. You're right.
I heard- yeah.
You're right. You're right in this that the Septuagint technically
the 5 books
refers
of
to the 5 books, but it comes by extension to refer to the rest of the Old Testament translated into Greek, which wasn't done at the same time. So that much is true.
Right.
But it's still
the
before
legend
Jesus.
says 70 elders.
Yes,
They
but-
translated the 5 books of Moses. That's it.
Yes, that's technically true. But that doesn't mean. But that doesn't mean.
Ptolemy, the Ptolemaic.
Yes, but that doesn't mean the rest of the Old Testament wasn't translated until after Jesus.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to find the evidence, right?
Well, we have the evidence.
Where's the evidence?
Yeah, that was the whole point. We have Greek translations of the Old Testament from
Codex
before.
Vaticanus and Codex
No,
Sinaiticus,
those
yeah.
are later. Those are later.
Yeah.
Those
What
are
do you have prior to that?
4th century. What I'm getting at is we have evidence that it was written, translated before
But
that.
you have no physical
The New
evidence.
Testament authors are quoting from it. Okay, but here, let me make the point.
Maybe, I
let me make the
doubt it,
point.
yeah.
It's irrelevant. It's still pre-Masoretic, right? Vaticanus and Sinaiticus are pre-Masoretic. But
Yes, I agree with you. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
But that's not even my point, though. My point is this. When you look at the translations of Symmachus, Aquila, Theodotion, one of the renderings. Is it true that people that some Muslims say that Jay has a jinn in his throat? Have you heard that?
I don't care. That's the first time I've seen him in real life. Getting old? Yeah.
That happens. Yeah.
It does happen.
Age.
Yeah. Even you get a bit. When I first saw you on the Shake.
How you like the beard?
Yeah, it's good. Very Christ-like. Very Christ-like. Yeah.
Where's yours?
Come on, leave him alone, man.
You don't want to compare beards. Come on. No.
Yeah, that's right. He'd be winning every time.
I laugh. No, because I remember watching this. Do you know who Abu Musab is?
Yes.
He's in Jeddah, Muslim. I think it's One Message Foundation. I think, or is that?
Yeah. No, the One Message Foundation is Sheikh.
Is that Uthman? It's something I think.
Yeah, it's the UK one, isn't it?
No, he's in Jeddah.
It's in Jeddah. Okay.
But there's an American Muslim, Suhaib Webb.
I know him.
And they were in a argument way back, and it's one of the funniest things I've seen. So Suhaib Webb, he's a big guy, right? Towers over
White
him.
guy, right?
Huh? Yeah. But a Muslim.
Yeah.
And he's chopping on Abu Musab, and he's saying, he's teaching these little kids in the suburbs with his iMac and his credit cards from his parents or whatever. They're like going at it, right? And then he's making fun of him and says, I can say that because I'm 6'5" and I've got these fly shoes on. And he's basically saying, I'll stomp him, right? But then Abu Musab, here he is over there. He goes, so what? He's 6'5", 5'5". He goes, so what? He goes, look at that guy's beard. He goes, it's tiny little beard. You know, he basically pulled out the Trump card. You know, my beard is bigger than your beard. So I've been waiting for the day. If I ever see Abu Musab, I'm going to tell him this debate is over.
That's right.
This debate is over because my beard.
It's down to the beards.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you a question, Anthony.
Yeah, go ahead.
I ask you a question. I don't want you to feel like I'm just attacking Christianity here, right? I actually just, you're someone who, you know, I listen to you, I watch you, you know, Anthony Rogers. We all know you, right? It's Anthony Rogers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it even sounds similar to the other Rogers, the one who did that cartoon. Not the cartoon, he did the child thing.
Oh,
Bill Rogers, something Rogers, I can't remember, something Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, that's it, okay.
The irony is he was a Presbyterian minister. I'm a Presbyterian minister.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well that makes sense. So what I would say is, because I've had this conversation with Bob the Builder quite a lot, and I am going to go to the New Testament now. This will be the last thing that we can.
No. After that, you ask him, did Muhammad split the moon?
No problem. You can ask me
and
a
ask
question
him for the proof.
because it'll be
Please
fair.
ask
It'll be fair that way.
He's got a proof.
What's this gimmick over here? This dude with the nose.
Oh, it's the nose of London.
Oh.
He's a waste of time.
Okay.
Anyway,
He's just a troll.
He came to me today and he said, "Oh, you should pay people to have your voiceover."
He's a weird one.
Anyway, so what I would say is I find it quite strange. According to the earlier Gospels, the Synoptics, we have Jesus being killed on the day after the Passover, right? I'm sure you've heard this before.
Oh, yeah. John supposedly changes it for theological purposes and so forth.
What is your opinion on that?
I think that there's a lot of technical stuff that goes in here. I don't think that there's a discrepancy, but it takes a bit to explain what's going on.
Right.
One thing is that the gospel writers don't use the same time measurements as there's different time reckonings in the New Testament.
Right.
You have the Roman reckoning, you have the Jewish reckoning, right? And so for example, if you looked, I was just showing this to I don't know if you know who Seventh-day Adventists are.
Yeah.
So I was talking to the Seventh-day Adventists.
Keep the Sabbath, right?
Yeah. And on Saturday. Yeah. So, but in their view, a day begins in the evening and it ends the following evening.
Yeah,
or
we agree with that.
Well, but here's why I bring this up. That's not always the way the gospel writers are speaking. They're not always assuming, because they're not always writing to the same audience. If another audience doesn't do time that way, it would only be confusing to them. Right. So if you look at John 20 verse 1, it says that as it began to dawn at the first day of the week, it talks about the women coming to the tomb.
Right.
But it calls that the first day of the week, as it began to dawn. So it's morning. Later in the gospel, you'll remember that Thomas wasn't with them, and so we were already talking about this earlier.
Yeah, the hands. Show me the hands.
So setting all that discussion aside,
of course.
but what it says is then he wasn't with them during the day when Jesus appeared to them, and then it says when it was evening. When the evening came, that same day, Jesus appeared to them. So here in John, he's not reckoning time from sundown to sundown. He's doing it from morning to evening.
Right.
They're part of the same day.
Evening is a new day.
And the same thing is true when you look at the hour measurements. Mark will talk about the 6th hour, the 9th hour. In Roman reckoning, this means one thing. In Jewish reckoning, it means another thing.
Yeah.
So part of the explanation is you have to be able to see what he's doing in terms of how he's measuring time and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's a little different than some of the other apparent discrepancies in the Gospels where at the Transfiguration, for example, Matthew will say 6 days later, Jesus took them up the mountain. Right. Luke's version says about 8 days. About 8 days. He doesn't say 8 days. He just says about 8 days. But it all depends where you begin the count. You know, if somebody asks me how long have you been here, it depends how. You know, do I count when I first arrived that day, even though I landed here maybe 5 p.m.?
Yeah, I get you.
Do I count that as a whole day? And then the last day I'm here, what if I leave at 10 a.m.? Do I count that? I could do either,
Spider?
and it not be wrong.
No, there's a spider on him.
And it so I'm saying this factors into it. It's not as if this sort of thing doesn't have a resolution. And I'm not pretending see, I think when people look at this sort of thing, for me, these aren't the big things, because I can go to the Quran and I can find things and think this is a problem. But my assumption is, honestly, this is my assumption. I don't believe that it makes sense to just jump to the conclusion the Quran is contradicting itself. That doesn't make sense to me, even in a normal, even if it's just a book that you wrote, and you don't make any claim that it came to you from God. I think I'm supposed to find a way to understand it that could harmonize things, and then if I can't, then that, you know, and the best thing is if I can ask you, right? But so it's the same thing with the Quran. When I look at the Quran, I don't just assume it. You know, I see people sometimes, they say things, this is a contradiction, and I think, well, I can think of a way to explain that.
I mean, okay,
you know,
by the way, I heard everything that you said, what was said previously about, you know, the Roman timings, the different timings, and the time of the day, evenings, and I get that.
And I'm pointing out partially how all complicated a lot of this is.
My issue is
it also has a different way of referring to the Sabbath. The Sabbath can sometimes refer to the seventh day of the week, but it could also refer to a high day in relation to certain feasts or festival occasions.
Right.
All this because it doesn't stay the same. It all depends when the feast begins, and this shifts year to year. So these sorts of things.
Let me ask you that. I got to ask you that. Okay. Is the Last Supper the Passover meal?
So it's Jesus taking that meal and giving it a New Testament meaning.
But
so whether even if it takes place on, you're asking, is it taking place on Passover?
I'm just asking, are they eating the Passover meal for the Last Supper?
That's what he's asking.
Yeah.
The Last Supper, is that the Passover meal that Jesus was eating?
I would say it depends what you mean by. I would say yes, in the sense that this is when Jesus is celebrating it with his disciples.
Right.
But if you're asking me, are they doing this when everybody else is doing it?
That's what I'm
asking. Is that what you're asking? That's a different question. And
is it the case?
I don't have a definite opinion on that, honestly.
Because obviously, if it is the Passover and they're eating the Passover, the matzah, and everything.
But the other thing is, the sacrifice doesn't take place.
It takes place the next day.
Yeah.
But remember, in John, when he's in front of Pontius Pilate, it says he's in front of Pontius Pilate, and it was the day of preparation before the Passover.
Yeah.
So. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not expecting you to give me an answer now.
Yeah.
Right? Go away and have a look at that sort of thing. But I think there is a case to be made, because you did mention it earlier. You said that it may have been for a theological reason.
No, I'm saying that's what some people claim.
I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously you want Jesus to comport with Moses,
but what people say is John is making this up for a theological reason.
But do you know what the theological reason is?
Well, you're going to say to make him the Lamb of God and so forth.
The Passover
Lamb.
Right, yeah. The Passover
But understand, it doesn't prove the non-historicity if one takes that. You don't have to say, because this has theological import, therefore John is making it up.
No, I'd say.
Who does?
Oh my God.
Excuse me, sir, would you try to...
Okay, whose mic is this? Whose mic is this?
Listen to praying! It's an emergency, call the police!
What? Yeah, I've seen him. Oh, where's Mansour going? I thought Mansour was coming over here. Whose mic is this? Is this yours?
Hey, Anthony.
I know.
It was great talking to you.
Appreciate it, man.
OB.
OB.
Yeah,
okay. You just have a look at his.
At least you can let him talk. That's good.
I enjoyed every bit of
Go
it.
home and think about the Passover meal. Don't worry about the Passover. Don't worry about it.
Go home and think of Muhammad's lamb.
See me here. I got 3 fancy packs of tea.
Wow, thank you.
Share it with whoever.
Thank you.
Why did God die? Why did God die?
You guys leaving?
Yeah.
Huh? Oh yeah.
There you go.
Cool deal. Wait, whose mic do I have?
Okay, you have I know whose mic that is. I know whose mic. This is yours, right?
Yes, so...
Let me ask you something. The one about the Passover meal. So can you give us like a...
Well, I'd rather do it in a detail. My whole point to him was there's all sorts of details that one has to pay attention to in order to... And it doesn't allow for a quick answer. You have to follow the steps as you're moving through the gospel and see what John is doing. So I'd rather just do it on my channel.
All right, that's fine.
as a longer thing.
As a longer thing. So we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Andrew, we love what you do. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.